If you only chase feeling comfortable with money, you'll stay broke in the nicest, most polite way possible. That's the controversial part nobody wants to say out loud, because comfort isn't peace, it's often just the same old scarcity wearing a fresh outfit. And the moment you start doing the right things, raising your prices, saving consistently, investing, setting boundaries, your body may react like you just touched a hot stove. Tight chest. Racing thoughts. That annoying urge to quit. Here's the twist, that discomfort might be the clearest sign you're finally reprogramming. You've been told that if it feels hard, it's not aligned. But what if the hard part is simply your nervous system updating the signal it's been broadcasting for years? What if your fear is actually your old financial identity fighting to stay in charge, right before it loses control? Because once you understand this, you stop treating discomfort like danger, and you start using it like a compass. And here's the quick reward. In the next few minutes, you'll learn how to tell the difference between growth discomfort and self-sabotage, why most people quit right before the shift, and what to do in real time, so you don't collapse emotionally and undo your progress. Stick with me, because by the end, you won't just think differently about money, you'll feel different around it, and that's when results finally stop being random. You'll feel it first as a weird tension in your chest, right when you decide to charge more, stop procrastinating, or finally take money seriously. And no, that discomfort isn't a sign you're failing, it's often a sign you're upgrading. Because when you challenge old money patterns, your brain doesn't clap, it pushes back. It treats new levels like unfamiliar territory, even if that territory is healthier and smarter. So if you feel uneasy while doing the right thing, that's not a mistake, that's rewiring. Discomfort can be the sound your financial identity makes while it's being rebuilt. Here's the sneaky truth, comfort doesn't mean good, it usually means familiar. If scarcity has been your default for years, it can feel like an old hoodie, ugly, but safe. You know how to live there, undercharging, delaying decisions, avoiding the numbers, working harder instead of smarter. So the moment you step out, saving consistently, investing, negotiating, selling confidently, your system reacts. Not because the move is wrong, but because the identity shift is real. Comfort protects the old story, even when the old story keeps you stuck. Think about it, if you grew up seeing money as stressful, then calm abundance might feel suspicious. If you learned rich people are greedy, earning more can trigger guilt, like you're betraying your roots. If you've repeated, "I'm not good with money," then competence feels like wearing someone else's jacket. So when you start acting like the person who manages money well, your body asks, "Wait, are we allowed?" That question can feel like fear, but it's often just change trying to settle in. And when you understand that, you stop panicking every time discomfort shows up. Now let's make it practical. You decide to save 10% every month, and suddenly you need something expensive. Convenient timing, right? That's your old pattern trying to restore the baseline. You'll rationalize it, but deep down you'll notice the urge is loudest when you're about to grow. One simple move, automate the savings, so you don't debate yourself every month. Remove the daily negotiation, and your future self starts winning by default. Discomfort fades faster when the system realizes the new rule isn't optional anymore. Another example, you raise your rates or pitch a bigger offer, and right after you hit send, your stomach flips. That flip doesn't mean you're wrong, it often means you're stretching. So instead of backpedaling, anchor yourself in evidence, results, testimonials, outcomes you've produced. Keep a proof folder on your phone, screenshots of wins, messages from clients, numbers that don't lie. When your body panics, proof works like a seatbelt in a sharp turn. Not hype, reality, right in your face, when your mind starts playing scary movies. Here's the trap that keeps people broke quietly. Comfort rewards avoidance with instant relief. You avoid checking your bank app and, relief, until a bill hits like a jump scare. You avoid learning finance and, no pressure, until you wonder why you feel behind again. So the skill isn't never feel discomfort, it's don't obey it. Sit with it for 60 to 90 seconds without fixing it, and your system learns, we survived. We're expanding. That's how new money patterns become normal, one uncomfortable repetition at a time. So treat discomfort like a dashboard light. It's information, not a command. Ask yourself, is this the discomfort of growth, or the discomfort of a bad strategy, and stay curious. Because comfort has kept millions of people trapped while whispering, at least you're safe. If you stay with the stretch, your new normal rises, and your old scarcity story starts losing its grip. And then something wild happens. Your body reacts before your mind can even explain why. That's when you're ready for the next layer, the nervous system and your money signal. You might think your money story lives in your head, but, plot twist, it often lives in your body first. Before you can logic your way into a better financial decision, your nervous system scans for danger and comfort. If your system learned that money equals stress, conflict, or shame, it'll treat growth like a threat. So when you try a new move, investing, raising prices, saying no, your chest tightens, your throat dries, your palms sweat. That's not you being weak, that's your biology doing its job, keeping you in what feels familiar. In other words, your body is basically your old money identity's security guard. Here's the rule most people never hear: your nervous system doesn't understand future success, it understands safe or unsafe. And it decides fast, way faster than your rational mind can craft a cute little motivational speech. That's why you can know a budget is smart and still feel irritated, trapped, or rebellious when you follow it. It's also why you can know negotiating is fair and still feel guilty like you stole something. Your money signal is basically the emotional frequency your body broadcasts when money is involved. Change the signal, and behavior starts changing without constant willpower arm wrestling. Let's make it painfully real. You open your banking app and suddenly you want to close it instantly, like it's haunted. That urge isn't a financial issue first, it's a nervous system reaction to discomfort. If you were trained to associate numbers with punishment, we can't afford it, your body learned numbers equals danger. So awareness feels like threat, and avoidance feels like relief, for about 5 minutes. The mentor move is to notice the pattern without judging yourself into a corner. Because shame spikes stress, and stress makes your brain cling harder to the old pattern. Now, here's a simple practice that sounds too easy to work, until it does: regulate first, decide second. Before you make a money decision, do 3 slow breaths and lengthen the exhale like you're cooling soup. Plant your feet, relax your jaw, and unclench your hands. Yes, your hands matter more than your opinions sometimes. Then ask, what decision would future me thank me for, instead of, what will stop this feeling right now? This tiny pause trains your system to stay online while money is present. And when your system stays online, your choices get calmer, cleaner, and less impulsive. Another practical trick: track your body's money alarms like a scientist, not a drama critic. Write down what happens right before you overspend, avoid a bill, or procrastinate investing. Is it tightness in the stomach, pressure in the chest, buzzing in the head, that restless, I need to do something feeling? Once you can name it, you can tame it, because it stops being this mysterious monster under the bed. Then you can build a counter-response: a walk, a cold splash of water, a 2-minute stretch, a quick voice note to ground yourself. It's not fluffy, it's training your system to associate money with steadiness, not survival mode. And yeah, sometimes your nervous system will try to help you with classic sabotage costumes: urgency and perfectionism. Urgency says, buy it now, fix it now, decide now, because fast feels like control. Perfectionism says, don't invest until you know everything, because delay feels like safety. So you'll want a rule: if it feels rushed, you wait; if it feels foggy, you simplify. Pick one next step so small it's almost insulting, like investing a tiny amount, or negotiating one clause, or saving the first 1%. Small steps teach your nervous system, we can do this without panic, and that's how the signal rewires. Now pay attention, because this is where the game gets sneaky. Right when your body starts tolerating the new level, your brain often tests you. It'll whisper, see? This feels weird. Let's go back, like a GPS trying to reroute you to the old neighborhood. That's why so many people quit right before the shift, because the discomfort spikes at the exact moment change is about to lock in. If you understand that spike, you stop taking it personally and start treating it like a checkpoint. So the real question becomes, will you interpret that moment as a warning, or as proof you're at the edge of a breakthrough? And that leads straight into what most people never expect, why they quit right before it happens. You're right at the edge when it feels like everything in you wants to pull back. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because your brain is doing what it was designed to do, protect what's familiar. When your money patterns start shifting, new habits, new decisions, new standards, your mind reads it as uncertainty, and uncertainty gets labeled as danger. That's the exact moment most people call it a sign and retreat. But it's often the sign you're finally close. Here's the sneaky part, your brain doesn't measure progress by results at first, it measures progress by comfort. So if you start budgeting, investing, or selling at a higher level, and it feels tense, your system assumes you're off track. It'll say, this stress means stop, even though the stress is just friction from changing a long-running pattern. The old software is trying to close the update window before the installation finishes. And because your brain loves efficiency, it will reach for shortcuts, especially emotional ones. It'll bring up old memories, last time you tried, you failed. It'll magnify risk, what if you lose money? It'll downplay reward, it won't matter anyway. That's not prophecy, it's pattern protection. The moment you feel that mental fog and sudden doubt is often the moment the new identity is trying to take the wheel. A practical example, you finally decide to raise your rates, and for 2 days you feel powerful, then suddenly you feel embarrassed. You start thinking, who do I think I am? That's the brain trying to return you to the social and financial identity it recognizes. Or you commit to investing weekly, and right before the first automatic transfer, you feel the urge to cancel until you learn more. That isn't logic, it's your safety system negotiating with your future. So the mentor move is to expect the quit signal as a normal phase, not an emergency. When your brain screams for relief, you don't obey it, you slow down and get precise. You can use a simple rule, never make a downgrade decision in a heightened state. If you feel urgency, shame, or panic, you pause and regulate first, walk, breathe, drink water, do something that tells your body, we're safe. Calm isn't a luxury, it's a strategy. Another move that works embarrassingly well, pre-commit while you're calm. Decide your rules before the discomfort hits. For example, I will keep my new price for 30 days before adjusting. Or, I will invest a small fixed amount every week for 12 weeks, no matter how I feel. This turns your growth into a process, not a debate. When the old pattern shows up to argue, the decision has already been made, like locking the door before the storm arrives. And here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Discomfort is not the enemy, it's the toll you pay to enter a new standard. The only reason it feels so intense is because you're closer than you've ever been to leaving the old baseline behind. Most people quit because they mistake intensity for impossibility. But intensity often means the old identity is losing leverage. Now, there's a catch, because not all discomfort is the same. Some discomfort is productive and builds you. Other discomfort is self-sabotage disguised as growth, draining you and keeping you stuck. And if you can't tell the difference, you'll either quit too early, or push in the wrong direction. That's exactly where we're going next, how to separate productive discomfort from self-sabotage. Productive discomfort has a specific flavor, it feels stretching, focused, and strangely clean. It's the feeling you get when you do the right thing that your old self avoided. Like sending the proposal, raising the price, opening the spreadsheet, making the investment. Your heart might race, sure, but there's also a quiet, this matters, underneath. It doesn't drain you into fog, it sharpens you into presence. That's how you know you're growing, not just suffering. Self-sabotage, on the other hand, usually feels chaotic, heavy, and noisy. It comes with urgency, catastrophizing, and that, I must fix this right now, itch. It pushes you into random actions that look productive but don't move the needle. You'll research forever, tweak endlessly, or start 10 things and finish none. And afterward, you don't feel expanded, you feel depleted and oddly ashamed. That's a signal, your system wasn't building capacity, it was escaping discomfort. Here's a quick filter that saves you years. Productive discomfort has direction. Sabotage has distraction. Growth discomfort points to one uncomfortable action that's aligned with your goal. Sabotage discomfort scatters you into avoidance that feels like being busy. If the next step is simple but your mind demands complexity, watch that closely. Your brain loves making preparation a hiding place with nice lighting. You don't need more information, you need more tolerance. Let's make it practical. You want better finances, so you decide to track spending daily. Productive discomfort says, ugh, I don't want to see this, but I will. Self-sabotage says, before I track, I need the perfect app, a new notebook, and a full life reset. See the trick? One creates clarity today, the other postpones clarity indefinitely. A clean move, pick the simplest method and commit for 14 days. If it's ugly but consistent, it wins. Another example, you want to earn more, so you plan to pitch your offer to 5 people. Productive discomfort feels like butterflies, then courage, then relief after you do it. Self-sabotage feels like overthinking the wording for 3 hours, then not sending anything. And it often hides behind, I'm protecting my reputation, or I'm waiting for the right moment. Translation, the old you want safety more than results. So set a timer, 20 minutes to draft, then send, no negotiating. There's also a body cue. Productive discomfort calms down after action, sabotage ramps up after action. If you take the step and your system settles, even if it's still nervous, that's growth. If you take the step and you spiral, obsess, or punish yourself, you likely crossed into self-attack. In that case, don't push harder, stabilize and adjust the approach. You can ask, am I building skill, or am I trying to earn worth? Because worth chasing turns everything into a fight. So here's your simple compass. Does this discomfort make you more honest, more clear, more capable? Or does it make you smaller, scattered, and secretly desperate for relief? If it's honest and clarifying, keep going, slowly, steadily, with a plan. If it's chaotic and draining, simplify the step and regulate your state first. Because the goal isn't to tolerate pain, it's to expand capacity without breaking trust with yourself. And once you spot that pattern, you'll notice something deeper. Your old financial identity fights back hard when you level up. Your old financial identity isn't just a belief in your head, it's a role you've rehearsed for years. It's the type of person you've unconsciously decided you are with money: spender, saver, avoider, hustler, undercharger, rescuer, gambler, perfectionist. And once an identity feels familiar, your brain defends it like it's your home address. So when you try to operate at a higher level, the resistance you feel isn't random, it's the old identity trying to stay employed. That's why you can make a perfectly smart plan and still feel weird doing it. You can say, I'm going to invest monthly, and then a quiet voice goes, who do you think you are? You can decide, I'll stop lending money to everyone, and suddenly guilt kicks in like an alarm. It's not that the new choice is wrong, it's that the new choice doesn't match the character you've been playing. The inner friction is the identity trying to pull you back into alignment with the old script. Here's a tough but freeing truth. Your identity is built to keep you consistent, not wealthy. Consistency feels like safety to the brain, even if it's consistently stressful. So if your identity is, I'm always behind, you'll unconsciously create situations that prove it true. If your identity is, money slips through my fingers, you'll find unexpected expenses, with suspicious timing. Not because you're broken, because the mind hates internal contradiction. It would rather be right than rich. One of the most common identity traps is the good person pattern. You might link earning more with being selfish, or saying no with being cold, or charging properly with being greedy. So every time you try to raise your standards, your nervous system throws moral static, guilt, shame, fear of judgment. The practical move here is to redefine what good means. Good can mean responsible, stable, reliable, generous without being drained. You're not becoming worse by earning more, you're becoming more capable of choosing. Another common one is the hard worker identity. You only feel worthy when you struggle. So ease feels suspicious, and higher income without burnout feels undeserved. If that's you, you'll unconsciously trade money for exhaustion because exhaustion feels like proof. The mentor move is to separate value from effort. Value is measured by outcomes, not suffering. Try this: pick one system that creates ease, automatic savings, a simple budget, a weekly review, and commit for 30 days. You're training your identity to accept calm as normal. You'll also see resistance show up as protective habits that once made sense. Avoiding numbers might have protected you from fear. Impulse spending might have protected you from emotional emptiness. Undercharging might have protected you from rejection. Those strategies were coping skills wearing business suits. So instead of hating them, you outgrow them. You replace the protection with healthier protection. Example: when the urge to spend hits, you pause and ask, what emotion am I trying to buy relief from? Then you choose a cheaper regulation tool: walk, breathwork, journaling, calling someone, before you touch your card. And when your identity starts updating, it will demand proof. It'll say, okay, show me that the new way works. That's why you need small wins you can stack: tracking spending for 7 days, saving the first 1%, making one investment, having one calm money conversation, holding your new price once without discounting. These aren't tiny, they're identity evidence. Because once your system sees you behaving differently consistently, your self-image begins to shift quietly. And that's when the real changes start showing up, not just emotionally, but in how you make decisions. When your money signal actually rewires, the first thing that changes isn't your bank account, it's your behavior under pressure. You start noticing a calmer gap between impulse and action, like your hand no longer reaches for the quick fix automatically. Decisions get less dramatic, less emotional, less, I need to do something right now. You don't magically become a robot, you just stop letting panic drive the car. And that shift alone can change your financial life faster than most strategies. One practical change: you stop confusing urgency with opportunity. Before, anything shiny could hijack you: new gadgets, random subscriptions, once-in-a-lifetime deals, risky bets, emotional spending after a rough day. After the rewiring, you feel the urge, and you don't obey it instantly. You might even laugh a little like, nice try. A simple practice that supports this: add a 24-hour rule for non-essential purchases, and a 72-hour rule for big ones. That pause is where your new signal gets stronger. Another change: you become less reactive in conversations about money. You can hear feedback without collapsing, negotiate without apologizing, and say no without writing a 5-paragraph explanation. You stop paying emotional taxes just to keep people comfortable. If you've ever discounted your work because you felt awkward, this is huge. A practical move: write one confident sentence you can reuse, like, my price is X because the outcome is Y, and practice saying it out loud until your body stops flinching. You also start choosing clarity over comfort. Instead of avoiding your numbers, you face them regularly, without turning it into a self-hate festival. You might schedule a weekly money meeting with yourself, 20 minutes, same day, same time. Check income, expenses, savings, investments, and one improvement for next week. Keep it simple, like a pilot checking instruments. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistent awareness. Consistent awareness is where control comes from. Here's another rewiring sign: you stop making financial decisions to impress people. You buy things because they fit your plan, not your ego. You stop chasing status to soothe insecurity, because your nervous system no longer needs that hit. That's when your spending becomes intentional, and intentional spending is basically a raise you give yourself. A practical test: before you buy, ask, would I still want this if nobody saw it? If the answer is no, you just caught an old pattern trying to dress up as a treat. Then there's the bigger shift: you start trusting delayed rewards again. You can invest, build, save, and wait without feeling like you're starving. Scarcity brains hate waiting, they demand instant proof. Rewired brains can tolerate the gap. That's why they build assets while everyone else builds excuses. A practical move: automate one long-term action: index fund investing, emergency fund transfers, debt payoff, so future you benefits even when present you is moody. And one of the cleanest signals of all: you become less impulsive and more strategic with risk. You don't avoid risk, you stop taking dumb risk. You can feel fear without letting it freeze you, and you can feel excitement without letting it blind you. You plan, you diversify, you keep cash reserves, you protect your downside. That's not being conservative, that's being professional with your life. If you invest, for example, you might favor broad index funds or diversified ETFs, and keep speculative plays small enough that they don't wreck your sleep. But here's the part that messes with people: this rewiring feels emotional before it ever looks financial. You'll often feel calmer, clearer, and more grounded weeks or months before you see a big external result. And that gap is where most people get confused and quit, right when the internal foundation is finally strong enough to hold more money. Which is exactly what we're stepping into next, why the shift hits your emotions first, and only later shows up in your reality. The shift almost always hits your emotions before it hits your wallet, and that's not a flaw, it's the order of operations. Your inner world changes first, how you react, what you tolerate, what you choose under stress. That's where the money signal rewires, long before external reality catches up. So if you feel calmer but your numbers haven't jumped yet, you're not stuck, you're in the build phase. Most people misread that phase as failure, and that's the trap. Think of it like planting. The roots grow in the dark before anything pops above the soil. Financial results are the above ground part: sales, promotions, profits, investments, compounding. But the roots are emotional: self-trust, regulation, boundaries, consistency, clarity. If you skip roots, you might get a quick spike, but you won't hold the level. That's why people who suddenly get money often lose it, because their nervous system never learned to live there. There's also a timing gap that nobody posts on Instagram. Behavior changes today, outcomes follow later. You can start tracking spending this week, but the payoff shows over months. You can raise your prices now, but the right clients might take time to find you. You can invest consistently, but compounding is a slow cooker, not a microwave. If your brain demands immediate proof, it will call the process not working and try to drag you back. The emotional shift is proof, just not the kind your old pattern trusts yet. And here's why it feels so intense: your emotions are basically your system's change meter. When you stop rescuing people financially, guilt shows up. When you stop undercharging, fear shows up. When you stop impulse spending, restlessness shows up. That doesn't mean you chose wrong, it means you removed a coping strategy, and your system is learning new ways to feel safe. Emotional turbulence is often withdrawal from the old identity, not evidence that growth is bad. A practical example: you decide to stop checking your bank account only when you're anxious, and start doing a weekly money review instead. At first, you might feel irritation, dread, even anger, like, why do I have to do this? That's the old avoidance habit protesting. But if you stay consistent, the dread drops, and clarity becomes normal. Clarity doesn't always feel exciting, but it makes you dangerous, in the best way, because you're no longer guessing. Another example: you commit to a higher standard, saving, investing, negotiating, and suddenly you feel emotional for no obvious reason. That's common because your system is processing the identity change. You're leaving the old you behind. It can feel like grief, even if the old pattern was harmful, because it was familiar. People don't just grieve losses, they grieve endings. If you expect that grief, you won't interpret it as a reason to quit. So the real question becomes, can you stay stable in the gap? Can you keep acting like the new version of you before the world reflects it back? That's the moment that separates people who rewire their financial life from people who relapse into the old pattern. Because the results will come, but they usually arrive after your system has proven it can hold them. Which brings us to the next step: how to stay emotionally stable while the signal is reorganizing, without collapsing, coping, or self-sabotaging. When your money signal is reorganizing, stability isn't about feeling good, it's about staying functional. This is the season where your old habits will knock like a salesperson who suddenly remembers your address. You'll feel urges, doubt, impatience, maybe even a little moodiness that makes no sense. That's normal. Your system is learning a new baseline, and baselines don't change quietly. The win here is simple: you don't need to be fearless, you need to be steady. Steady is what turns rewiring into results. Start with one anchor routine that happens no matter what, even on messy days. Keep it almost boring, 10 minutes of tracking expenses, or checking balances, or reviewing your plan once a week. The goal isn't mastery, it's consistency under mild discomfort. Think of it like brushing your teeth for your finances, not glamorous, but life-changing over time. If you make it too big, your brain will negotiate you back into later. If you make it small, your brain can't argue without sounding ridiculous. Next, protect your nervous system from fake emergencies, because money growth hates chaos. Build a rule: no big financial decisions when you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or in panic mode. That's not motivational, it's biological. If you're in a spike, your brain will choose relief over wisdom every single time. So when you feel urgency, you pause, drink water, walk for 5 minutes, breathe slower than usual. Calm first, decision second. This one habit prevents 80% of expensive mistakes. Then create friction for your old escape routes and ease for your new standards. If you impulse spend, remove saved cards, unsubscribe from flash sale emails, and add a 24-hour wait rule. If you avoid numbers, put your finance app on the front page of your phone and schedule a weekly money check like an appointment. If you sabotage investing, automate a small amount and treat it like rent, non-negotiable. Your environment is either training your old identity or supporting your new one. Make it support you, because willpower is cute, but systems are undefeated. Now let's talk emotional stability, because this is where people wobble. You need a soothe list that doesn't cost money. Most overspending is emotional regulation wearing a shopping bag. So prepare alternatives that actually work: a quick workout, a hot shower, journaling for 5 minutes, calling a friend, listening to a specific playlist, even chewing gum and walking outside. Yes, simple stuff works. If you want a practical script, try: I'm not buying relief, I'm choosing regulation. It sounds cheesy, until it saves you hundreds. Also, don't isolate during the transition. Your old patterns thrive in secrecy, and your new standards grow in sunlight. Tell one trusted person your new rule: I'm saving X, or I'm keeping my price, or I'm investing weekly. Not for validation, for accountability. If you don't have that person, use a tracker or community, a habit app, a simple spreadsheet, or even a calendar you mark. The goal is proof you can see, because your brain respects evidence more than vibes. Another stabilizer: set minimums and maximums, so you don't swing between extremes. Minimum: the smallest action you do even on a bad day: track one expense, save $5, review one line. Maximum: the point where you stop overdoing it, number 3-hour budgeting marathons, no obsessive checking. Extremes feel productive but often trigger burnout, and burnout is where relapse lives. Your job is to stay in the middle lane long enough for the new signal to feel normal. Finally, measure progress in the right currency while you're rewiring. Don't only track results, track behaviors. Did I pause before spending? Did I hold my boundary? Did I follow my system? Those are wins that compound. Because first you get calm decisions, then consistent actions, then better outcomes, and that sequence is annoyingly reliable. Keep stacking stability, and you'll reach the moment where discomfort stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like momentum, and that's exactly where we're headed next. At some point, the discomfort stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like traction. It's subtle at first, like your inner world finally gets some grip on the road. You still feel nerves, but they don't steer you anymore. They ride shotgun and complain. And that's the moment your effort becomes momentum, because you're no longer arguing with yourself daily. When your energy isn't leaking into fear management, it suddenly becomes available for strategy. That's when life starts handing you chances you would have ignored before, because you're finally ready to notice them. You'll recognize it by the way you move: faster decisions, fewer emotional spirals, more clean yes and clean no. Instead of obsessing for 3 days, you choose in 30 minutes and execute without theatrics. You stop needing perfect certainty, and you start trusting good enough clarity. And weirdly, you become more patient and more decisive at the same time. Best combo ever. This is where consistency starts to feel natural, like brushing your teeth, not climbing Everest. The old you needed motivation, the new you just needs a calendar. Momentum also shows up as opportunity detection. Before, an opportunity could be right in front of you and you'd overthink it into dust. Now, you spot patterns. This client type converts, this offer is clean, this expense is a leak, this investment fits. You don't chase everything, you choose what matches your plan, and that alone multiplies results. Practical example, you start tracking which content posts bring leads, double down on those, and cut the noise. Your income doesn't grow from chaos, it grows from repeatable signals you can actually measure. Then your actions begin compounding, and compounding is the closest thing to financial magic that isn't illegal. You automate savings, so your future gets funded even on days you feel moody. You keep your price, so your business stops bleeding profit through nice guy discounts. You invest consistently, so time starts working for you instead of against you. You build an emergency buffer, so one surprise bill doesn't knock you into panic spending. And suddenly, stability isn't a vibe, it's a structure you've installed. Another momentum marker, money conversations get easier, and that changes everything. You negotiate without apologizing, ask for what you want, and you don't crumble if someone says no. You stop explaining yourself like you're on trial, and you start speaking like you're the decision maker. Try this script, here's the price, here's the outcome, and here's how we'll measure success. If they push back, you don't fold, you offer options, fewer deliverables, longer timeline, or a different package. That's not being harsh, that's being professional, and professionals get paid. And here's the fun part, your ideas start getting sharper, because your brain isn't stuck in survival mode. When you're not constantly putting out emotional fires, creativity comes back online, like Wi-Fi finally reconnecting. You notice better angles, smarter offers, cleaner systems, and you actually implement them. You might create a simple upsell, improve retention, start a referral loop, or build a content series that attracts buyers. You'll also become more selective with risk, fewer impulsive bets, more thoughtful moves with upside. Momentum loves clarity, and clarity loves a regulated nervous system. Eventually you'll realize that shift wasn't one big dramatic moment, it was a series of small brave choices. Each time you stayed steady in discomfort, you taught your system a new normal. And once that normal sets in, money stops feeling like a battlefield and starts feeling like a skill. Not perfect, not always easy, but workable, repeatable, and that's where freedom starts. Now, if you zoom out, you can see how all these pieces fit together like a map, not random advice. And that map is exactly what we'll use next to frame the whole message in a way that hits hard from the first line.